And Section F, Presentation and Board Business, Part A. Number one being the equity presentation, a vision statement and update on the parent task force.
All right, thank you so much. We are very pleased tonight to bring to you all an update on where we are on our work toward racial equity in our school district. And Julia, as we all know, has been leading all of our work related to this, but it doesn't mean she's been doing it alone or by herself. She has a lot of help and support. And we do truly appreciate that Julia is leading our work and ensuring that everything that we do in this district is through an equity lens. And very happy to be able to provide you all an update this evening, and for our oncoming trustees to be able to get a glimpse, if they haven't been listening to all of our other board meetings, then to get a glimpse of what we've been doing in the district and to join in on our future work.
Thank you, Marcy. And actually, I wanted to begin just by acknowledging and thanking you as my thought partner in this work. We've been engaged together in the work for, I think, about 3.5 years now. We started our work with the county, and I really appreciate our conversations that are frequent and always enlightening.
Thank you.
And I'm very excited to be updating the board on our equity initiative in Ross Valley. So this year, as we begin our 2021 school year in the midst of a pandemic, we are really proud to be moving forward. And we have kind of turned our attention towards our parent communities, and specifically our BIPOC parent community. And to this end, we have two different endeavors taking place right now. One is our equity task force. And this is a stable group of membership with representatives from all of our sites. There's 2 to 3 parent representatives per site, along with some parent representation, our DLAC committee, which represents our English language learners. And then that group of people is kind of equally matched by Ross Valley School District staff, which is a combination of administrators and certificated employees, and we have 1 classified employee on that team as well. So this group has been gathering. We've gathered 3 times to talk about this work in this district, and to really talk about it from the parent perspective. And then alongside that and supporting the work of the task force, we have been holding equity conversations. And these are evening events that are open to everyone who wants to tune in. And it's really a forum for listening and for sharing stories and engaging in conversation. And that work informs the work of the task force. But I also wanted to talk a little bit about how we got to where we are now. So can you see my cursor if I'm doing this?
Yes.
Does that show up? Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I can use it as a pointer. Excellent. And so this shows about 3 years of work, and it would take quite a bit of time to kind of go through and unpack all of the work that we've done. And this timeline doesn't necessarily represent all of our work, but it shows some kind of major events and actions that have been taken. And so what you see in the yellow is the work that's taken place at our admin level, which includes participation on the Marin County Equity Team, which has participants from all over Marin County, all different school districts. And Marcy and I started with that team about 3.5 years ago. And it's still continuing to today. Right now it's being led by Tara Topier, the superintendent of the TAM district, and Eileen Smith, who is the curriculum director for MCOE, part-time. And that's been really wonderful work. And last week we were joined by Eric and Christy Fish. And so our Ross Valley team is continuing that work in a really strong and helpful way. It's great to talk with our colleagues from around the county. So the green pieces you see on here are all representative of PD that we've provided to our certificated staff. And much of this PD, or even most of this PD, has been in partnership with the organization Epic Education, which we've talked about in the past. Dr. Nancy Dome is the leader of that organization, and she has worked with us and provided trainings. And this year we are working with two of their trainers, Kelly Cole and Dr. Erica Brown. But our teachers have had training in implicit bias, compassionate dialogue, culturally responsive teaching. We have kind of been working on adopting a tool that comes from EPIC called the RIR protocol, which is the recognize, interrupt, and repair. And then on our own, but with support of EPIC, we've conducted our own PD. We've done a dive into our classroom libraries and had a
Mom said
event
that.
at
He's a take it to her now. She won't leave us alone. She's with you now.
All right, just let me check if folks can please mute their microphones, please, unless you're speaking. All right, Julia, are you still with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome, no worries. And so we took a couple of trips to Book Passage to enrich our classroom libraries. One really focused on making sure we have books where all kids can see themselves, another focusing on the counter narrative and history. A lot of our site-based work has been connected to equity. When we have had instructional rounds the last couple of years, the focus of those rounds, our problem of practice, has been equity-based. We've also done site-based equity walks where you're really just touring the campus, kind of imagining what it feels like to be there as a child who is a BIPOC kiddo. And so lots and lots of different pieces taking place. Whitehill has had a specific, Whitehill has done kind of deeper work with Epic Education. Last, they worked with Epic on doing a student and staff team for students and staff of color that were working together. And this year they're doing more work on curriculum work. So lots has been happening and continues to happen. And then what you can see down on the end is that we do have this focus on our parent work this year. And I'll pause there for any questions. All righty. And then I did want to acknowledge the members of our Parent Guardian Equity Task Force. You can see we have parents from all over the district as well as staff. And I really appreciate their participation. Everyone has been very, very thoughtful and very committed to the work and engaged, and we're developing a community with one another. That has been wonderful. And this is the group that's been in partnership with us in developing our Ross Valley School District Racial Equity Mission Statement. And I want to thank the board because I know that you have been very patient, that this is something that you've been kind of waiting for, and you've been trusting that that we really wanted and needed to take it through an authentic process where there was real input from all of our stakeholders. So our statement, which I'm about to show, kind of began with some brainstorm at the administrative level. And then I worked on writing it a little bit, and very quickly, a number of our parents from the task force joined in that writing process. From there, it went back to the administrative team, and then it went to our Delight team of teacher leaders, which has representation from all of our sites. And from there, it went to our district equity team, which is separate from the parent team, which has administrators and certificated and classified representatives. And then in the end, it went back to the parent equity team. So I think that there were maybe different iterations of the statement, and we're really proud of where we landed. And Marcy, if you would please do the honor of reading the statement to the group. And after Marcy reads the statement, we're going to have Eric read the statement as well in Spanish.
Thank you. And I do want to also just reiterate what Julia said about the commitment of our Board of Trustees, all of you, in ensuring that this work that we were doing in the district remained high priority. It was high priority for you as it remained high priority for us. And so we're just thankful that here we are tonight. And I'm so excited to read our racial equity mission statement. The Ross Valley School District is committed to creating a safe, equitable, and inclusive learning environment in which all students feel a sense of belonging, are respected and celebrated for their individual differences, and are empowered to thrive socially, emotionally, and academically. We are equally committed to building the leaders of tomorrow who will combat racism and promote equity throughout their lives. Ross Valley School District parents, guardians, students, staff, and partnership will create policies to disrupt systemic racism and prioritize equity in our organizational structures, curriculum, and instructional practices. We will do this by actively engaging, listening, and responding to the voices and needs of our marginalized students, families, and staff, and working to engage in anti-racist actions that build a vibrant, inclusive community.
Thank you, Marcy. Eric?
Declaración de la misión de equidad racial de RVSD. El Distrito Escolar de Ross Valley está comprometido a crear un ambiente de aprendizaje seguro, equitativo e inclusivo en el que todos los estudiantes sientan un sentido de pertenencia, sean respetados y celebrados por sus diferencias individuales y estén capacitados para prosperar social, emocional y académicamente. Estamos igualmente comprometidos con la formación de los líderes del mañana que combatirán el racismo y promoverán la equidad a lo largo de sus vidas. Los padres, tutores, estudiantes y personal del Distrito Escolar de Ross Valley en asociación crearán políticas para interrumpir el racismo sistémico y dar prioridad a la equidad en nuestras estructuras organizativas, currículo y prácticas de instrucción. Haremos esto participando activamente, escuchando y respondiendo a las voces y necesidades de nuestros estudiantes, familias y personal marginados y trabajando para participar en acciones antirracistas que construyan una comunidad de aprendizaje vibrante e inclusiva.
Thank you, Eric. And I will pause here, and I think I'll go back one for those of us who need to see it in English. Any comment or thought from the board before we continue?
This is Annalisa. I would love to say thank you so much to the team that put together this work. It was truly worth the wait, and I believe it is wildly important. I love so many aspects of what you all have put together. I like that we call out a sense of belonging. I think that's the next step in talking about inclusive, is really making sure that students feel empowered and belong. And that's an important aspect of what you're doing. I also love that you brought into this sort of forward thinking and future thinking about developing leaders who will combat racism and promote equity. And I also love that it acknowledges that we are all better by having a vibrant and inclusive learning community, and that work will require us all to engage in anti-racist action. So thank you for doing the work. I'm really pleased that our district makes such a strong statement about the way we'll move forward in the world. So thank you.
And entirely unsurprisingly, I agree with everything Trustee Bauer just said, and I hope we can post that prominently everywhere.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. It's Mark. You know, one of the great lessons of 2020 will be whether or not everything that occurred after George Floyd's murder will be taken seriously and advanced. And I'm fine with the fact that we've had to wait, because having this now and at this point in time, which is a bit after a lot of those events transpired, I think gives us much more of an opportunity to be able to move forward. And I fear that much of what was accomplished and the momentum associated therewith for some organizations might fade as we come out of the pandemic. And I'm hopeful, and I'm pretty confident that that will not be the case for us. So thank you, and I really appreciate all of the work that was done across all the stakeholder groups here and forward.
I actually have zero concern, because this was our primary, our forefront and overarching guidance principle for these years before it became widely popular item, not because it was widely popular, but because it was right. And I don't have any concern at all that our leadership will continue to view everything through an equity lens, not because it's popular, but because it's right. So I actually, don't worry, Mark, I think they got this.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And if I could create an iteration number 10, I recognize that in that middle portion there where it says parents, guardians, students, and staff, I think it may be important to insert the word trustees as well.
Agreed. Excellent. I love that.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Thank you, Julia.
Yes, thank you, Julia.
Of
For
course,
so many things.
we already knew. Awesome. Well, thank you. It feels really good. Like when we finally landed there, I slept really well. Know that we have lots to do. And that actually takes to this slide. And so realistically, the actions that we'll be taking this year. So we are, of course, continuing our work with EPIC. They provide staff training. We're hoping to hold some parent trainings as well. Our parent conversations have been kind of part training, part conversation, and we have had the realization, and this is where our parent partners really helped us, that there's a need for just conversations that is separate from parent training. So we're going to kind of separate those two pieces. And then, of course, we've already accomplished the development of our task force. We are looking towards increasing our support for our Spanish-speaking students and families, and hope that the inclusion of our statement in Spanish was a little bit symbolic of that. But I know that Eric, and he's worked with Principal Christy Fish, are working on creating a more robust and renewed DLAC. And I'm sure he'll be talking about that in future board meetings, and finding ways to not only to extend our support of our Spanish-speaking families beyond translation to really supporting all aspects of their participation in our schools. We've focused on our training this year, and you'll see in a report coming later this evening, we're focusing again on trauma-informed practices, which we know have great benefit to all of our students, and especially our marginalized students, or students who've been historically marginalized. And we continue to work on our protocols for re-engagement, and that's actually coming up in our upcoming PD as well. Curriculum-wise, we actually have a parent on our task force who's a librarian in the county, and her focus and area of expertise is children and teen literature. And she has, for the county, created these fabulous book bundles with discussion guides that have focuses like social justice or centering people of color. And so we're looking to do something actually similar and have a group of teachers helping to pilot it this year. So diving into that. And then White Hill, Matt just talked with me today about how his 8th grade teachers are developing a whole unit on social justice literature. And so they've selected 6 titles, of which each child will be 2. And then they'll be doing some writing and persuasive writing around that. And I know that the White Hill history teachers and as well our elementary teachers are focusing on the counter narrative in history. And then we need to get better at communication. I know I feel very personally that this is an area of growth. And so I'm so pleased to have our mission statement. And I'm getting ready. We are getting ready to launch an equity landing page on our district website. And we're also talking about having I don't know how often, perhaps a quarterly equity newsletter that would be written in partnership between parents and staff. And then continuing our work with our community partners, our participation in the Marin County equity work, and then also articulation with the TAN district. I'm actually meeting with Vice Principal Nate Severn later this week to talk about their work and our work and where the through line is and how we can support one another. So lots for this year. And I think that's it for this particular update. Much more in the future, I'm sure. Any other questions or comments?
No, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. I look forward to learning more as it continues.
All righty, here we go.